The village of Kamnik in the foothills of the Slovenian Alps is home to a center for disabled children. Today, the director welcomes a unique group of visitors from countries in Africa, the Caribbean and the Pacific. The visit was enabled by the EPP-ED group in the European Parliament. MEP Ljudmila Novak taught German courses for 18 years at the Kamnik Center before she was elected to the European Parliament. She wants to show how disabled young people are taken care of in Slovenia and hopes to inspire the visitors from the developing countries. The Kamnik Center is home to about 150 disabled children. They have private rooms. The center includes primary and secondary schools, a swimming pool, even a manege with horses for hippotherapy. The center also helps students develop office skills, making it easier to integrate into society as an adult.
Europäische Union und auch Slowenien kann ein Vorbild sein, wie sorgt man für behinderte Leute. Und deswegen ist es sehr wichtig, dass sie auch da lernen, obwohl der Standard, den wir hier haben, natürlich den können sie noch lange nicht erreichen. Aber trotzdem ist es wichtig, dass sie verschiedene Ideen da bekommen.
Mrs. Novak is one of the 29 members of the EPP-ED group active in the Joint Parliamentary Assembly of the ACP countries and the European Union. This year, the 15th ACP-EU Assembly takes place in Ljubljana, capital of Slovenia, the country that currently holds the Union's rotating presidency. The Assembly represents more than 100 countries. Most of them are former European colonies. The meeting includes 78 members from parliaments in the ACP countries and 78 from the European Parliament. Almost one-third of them are members of the EPP-ED group.
As ACP states, we acknowledge that we have problems to resolve in our own backyard. It is important to dwell on the issue of governance and institutions, because as the evidence shows, most ACP states are poor, not because of lack of resources, but because of the way these resources have been managed in the past.
At the initiative of the EPP-ED group, one of the first resolutions adopted in the Assembly is on Kenya. The ACP-EU condemns all acts of violence in recent months and calls for an inquiry into the post-electoral violence. Kenya's delegate said the international community can expect stability in the coming months after a peace deal was signed in February.
The concerns that were raised by the joint parliamentary group in January contributed actually very positively to the discussions that took place. We also had a lot of support from the EU during the time of difficulties, and we had a lot of support from ACP, in particular the African Union. So it's actually the membership of ACP-EU that had a lot of impact in the resolutions that were being carried out in Kenya.
Kenya did not raise any controversy at the Assembly in Ljubljana, but a resolution on another country that was hit by turmoil did, Chad. Until the very last moment of the four-day meeting, it was not clear if the Assembly was going to unite behind the declaration that condemned the violence in Chad and that called for the release of unarmed opposition leaders. German MEP Juergen Schroeder is the EPP-ED spokesperson for Chad.
Where should we issue resolutions of that kind other than in a surrounding like this? It's the very place, I think, where it's appropriate to have this. A common resolution saying that we Europeans and in this case Africans have to work together to alleviate the situation of the people on the ground. I mean, this is the essence of what we are here for in the ACP Assembly, and this is a major part of our work.
In the end, African countries withdrew their support for the resolution on Chad. They called for a vote in separate houses, a technicality that caused the resolution to falter in the very last minutes of the meeting in Ljubljana. Michael Gahler, Vice Chairman of the ACP-EU Assembly and EPP-ED Group negotiator, voices the disappointment in the group.
What we've experienced now with the child resolution, it is a classical politically schizophrene behavior to sign a resolution, to agree to the contents, and then tell me or tell us that we'll vote in favor, and then do just the opposite. This will not succeed.
Economic partnership agreements proved to be another divisive issue at the Ljubljana meeting. Trade issues traditionally are at the heart of the debate. The EPP-ED group wants to do more to explain the impact of these arrangements, also to remove misunderstandings among developing countries. EPAs are designed to bring international trade arrangements into line with the rules under the World Trade Organization. These rules demand that all developing countries are given equal access, including those who are not a member of the ACP. Preferential access to European markets is no longer allowed, and that is difficult to accept for many ACP countries, even when they are compensated. Dutch MEP Maria Martens is rapporteur for EU-Africa politics and a spokesperson on EPAs for the EPP-ED group.
We, from the EPP, we are very convinced that economic growth is needed in order to reduce poverty, and it can help to be independent. It can help countries to be economically independent.
A critical factor for ACP countries who want to survive in a globalized international market is regional cooperation. That is why the European Union now is pushing its own existence as a best practice example for successful regional integration. The EPP-ED wants to encourage African countries to trade more with their neighbors. There are countries that export products to Europe, while the neighboring countries import the very same products from Europe. European Development Commissioner Louis Michel shares the views of the EPP-ED group on regional cooperation.
What we did and what we did with success in Europe has to be done in Africa, for instance. If you want them to take profit, to benefit from the international globalization, they have to integrate economically and regionally.
As the delegates from the ACP countries prepare to leave on what is a long journey for most of them, they are able to collect a free laptop, thanks to an initiative taken by British MEP Nirj Deva.
This machine is quite extraordinary. It can go to every child in the developing world. It doesn't need any electricity. It doesn't need anything to work. It works on solar power, and it will change the world and change the way young people in the developing countries work and study.
The laptop, known as the XO, has been developed at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the US. It is specifically designed for children in developing countries, such as these in Brazil. The One Laptop Per Child organization wants to make the XO laptop available to all children in the developing world between the age of 6 and 12.
Many countries in Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia are ready to go. They want this. They see the value in this. They understand that children are not being able to think critically, but they need the resources, and that's where the EU comes in.
So this is quite a remarkable machine, which will actually, I repeat myself, change the world.
Mr. Deva's initiative ensures that the One Laptop Per Child project now formally is an item on the agenda of the ACP-EU. Committees are due to meet in Brussels in September. The next joint parliamentary assembly takes place in Port Moresby in November. For the EPP-ED group in the European Parliament, the ACP-EU meetings continue to be important as a platform for dialogue with developing countries.